Danielle, do you think being a runner has helped you as a clinician, or endurance athlete has helped you as a clinician in treating that same population?
Absolutely. Like hands down, they have complemented each other so well. I think being a PT and gaining more experience has helped me become a better endurance athlete, but being an endurance athlete and working hand in hand with that population has definitely helped. I think me telling them my stories if they ask, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've had that injury. It totally sucks. Like I had to take some downtime when I was training for this race, and then you just start talking about the races and they forget that they were even talking about their pain. And I think it's worked really well, and I think validates where I'm coming from and what I'm telling them. I'm suggesting them something because this is something that I've tried myself. This is something that I've done to rehab myself to get back to training. And then from a coaching perspective, being a PT, I think also helps me as a coach because I'm going at it from two angles, and I'm looking at it from a conservative side when I need to be, but then I know when I can ramp things up and really push the envelope.
We talked about differences or potential differences between, higher end competitive athletes and more recreational or even beginner athletes. Tell me if you agree. I think that with those competitive athletes, they're probably going to be a little bit more, maybe critical is not the right word, but they'll be looking probably for a rehab professional who's got a little bit more street cred or who can, walk the walk. And again, I haven't worked with a ton of runners, but for powerlifters, I've had some come through, some of whom I've known ahead of time, but some of whom I haven't. And so sit them down, they start telling me their story, and then I'll say, yeah, I have this injury and I can compete. And, oh, what weight class, what federation, what's your 1 rep max, your squat, bench, deadlift, you pull sumo conventional, just like start talking shop with them. And it's relevant, but sometimes the light goes on, like, oh, okay, this person gets it. Do you find that's the case with you when you're working primarily with those higher end athletes, or just maybe even in general?
Yeah, I think it definitely goes a long way. And then there's a common ground. You're not just talking about why they can't do their activity. You're talking about what races are coming up, and then they start picking my brain. They're like, oh, what are you training for? And they all of a sudden want to know my life story and what my training looks like. And I'm like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Okay. Like, can we get back to your exercises that I need to tell you before time's up? But it lightens the mood because I think it sometimes shifts the attention away from what they're there for to kind of just have a regular conversation with a runner in their community or a triathlete in their community that understands the training demands and that understands how it stinks to not be able to train at a full capacity. So I think it actually balances it out really well.
You said how being a clinician has also helped your own training. Do you ever find, though, that you become overly doctor on yourself and you start kind of like thinking about everything in that way, almost overanalyzing?
Yeah, yes and no. Knock on wood, I've had, I would say, 3 years of pretty good training cycles without any significant injuries. Knock on wood.
I heard it.
However, yeah. However, this happened to me last weekend, 2 weekends ago when I did an Olympic triathlon, and I did really well and it felt great. Didn't feel anything during the race, during the run, bike, everything felt great. When I finished, maybe 2 hours later, stood up from lunch and I could not wait there on my foot. And I was like, what is going on? And I went into total patient freak out mode. I was like, how can I not walk? I cannot even hop on one leg right now. I must have, I started spiraling in my own head of what if I have a stress fracture? This totally feels bony. I can't walk. I can't plantar flex my foot. And I'm having this conversation with my husband and he's like, so do you think you need to go to the hospital? And I was like, no, I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. And he's like, I think you're going to be okay. And I was like, I don't know. This hurts way too much. Like, and then you just start getting all these thoughts, and thinking back, I think I might have hit my foot somewhere on a rock getting out of the water. But because I was in race mode, nothing fazed me. Because like there was no bruising, there was nothing. I was like, why can't I wait there? And the next day it was still sore, and I moved it around and I was fine. But you know, these things go from 0 to 100 in like 1 hour. And I was talking myself out of like not doing anything for like 2 weeks.
But it's funny because
so even PTs get there.
Yeah. And we see patients like that. I think it's valuable to be on the other side of it, because it's easy for us. I'm not experiencing what the person in front of me is experiencing, and they've got some angst about it. And I'm like, you know, you'll be fine. And in their mind, it's like, what the hell, man? I can't even do X, Y, Z. And so it was like kind of similar with you and your husband. You know, I think you're going to be okay. And you're like, you don't know what I'm feeling. No, I think that's, well, you got a great coach too.
Yes. Yes, I do.
And that probably helps, if anything, to know that there's a plan, you know?
Yeah. And I actually called him that, I think it was either that night or the next day. And I was like, Chris, I don't know what happened, but I couldn't weight bear. And now it's the next day and I can weight bear, but I think I have some tenderness on my fifth met. And I think that's where I hit it, because that's where there's scab. And he's like, yeah, you know, it sounds like you're doing okay. This is all normal to have some weird things feel after after a race. And, you know, if you hit it, it might have just felt weird. But, like, how was the race? And I was like, oh, the race was great. He's like,
yeah.
Okay. He's like, all right. I think, he's like, let's see how it feels tomorrow. And I think you're going to be okay. I'm like, all right, cool.
A lot of it's just the unknown. It's like, all right, you bruised your foot, you sprained your foot. Congratulations. You know, had you realized it right from the jump, like when you hit it on whatever you hit it, and you knew it, and then it was that sore, you'd probably still be a little worried, but you'd be like, well, I know when it happened. Like, this is not surprising. But it's like that initial, what the hell? All of a sudden, I can't walk. You know, that can be a scary thing. But again, our patients experience those types of things. But when we're on the outside, it makes sense. From Chris's standpoint, he's like, yeah, you just like competed in a big event, and now you're feeling some backlash from it. You know, no big deal. Let's see how it plays out. But you're the one experiencing it. It's much easier said than done. So it's funny to have that kind of back and forth. But yeah. I'm sure those types of things help you then. Again, as a clinician, then hearing a similar subjective, you know, oh yeah, you know, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, no, definitely helps.